Hey, Paul. How's it going?
Doing great, Jacqurelyn. I can't believe another week has gone by.
I know. And last week was pretty crazy. My brain is still tired, so we have a lot to talk about today.
Yeah. You're writing so much. It's almost scary.
Scary? Is that a Halloween joke?
It's a Halloween joke. No, you're doing a wonderful job. You're making things that are difficult to understand easier to understand, even for feeble minds like mine.
That's my job. No, just kidding.
So we should have. Here's where we screwed up. We should have been in costume.
I know. I don't even have a costume yet, and it's coming. The weekend's coming.
See, I would have been a clown, maybe a sad clown.
A sad clown is probably the most depressing costume I could possibly think of. What do you mean, a sad clown?
Well, I like dark comedy, The sad clown is a pretty funny thing.
Yeah, if you're going to go dark humor.
Yeah, I could also see expanding my range of titles at the Cancer Letter. I could be editor, publisher, and clown.
And jester? I like jester better. Jester is a little more like,
Jester is a clown. The clown is a jester. Let's not make things. It doesn't improve things.
I think it does. I mean, at least in terms of wow, look at us. We're really matching right now with our Cancer Letter.
What's wrong with clowns?
I think clowns have a more of a negative connotation than jester, but that
really, some of us are very nice people.
Some of us, the clown, what is it? Prejudice.
Yes. So anyway, anti-clownism.
Yes, honestly.
Actually, there is such a term. Actually.
Is it called
I learned that from actually my wife's novel, which is filled with clowns, now that I think about it. And can you look it up? Do you have your computer? Clown phobia. What's it called?
Oh, I don't even know. Coulrophobia? Cowl? Coulro phobia.
Coulrophobia. Yeah. There's that, and then there's also what do you call a group of clowns? Can you look that up?
What do you call a group of clowns? This is good ASMR for anybody who likes keyboards. They're called a giggle. Is that right?
A giggle? No.
That's what the AI overview is coming up with. Clown alley.
Clown alley. There you go, alley.
But it's also a giggle. Giggle is also a thing.
A giggle is a good term too, but it's a little clownish.
Yeah, well,
but a giggle, alley is a much more interesting thing. School of fish,
Mm-hmm. Murder
alley of clowns.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are names for people who fear us.
Us. All right. Well, let me take us through the headlines before we go further down this deep headline. I wrote the cover story last week about the Friends of Cancer Research's CT Monitor project. It is a large-scale effort that aims to improve the efficiency of the development of intermediate endpoints. We're going to go through that in more detail later in the podcast. And then Paul wrote a story about the new director of the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences. And I wrote a story about the recent results from Grail's Pathfinder 2 study, which I think we're also going to be talking about. So I'm not going to give too much detail there. And we had a story about the new members of the National Academy of Medicine, just sort of a list of oncology-related people. And finally, we had a guest editorial by members of the Environmental Mutagenesis and Genomics Society about the importance of carcinogen surveillance. So that was a really interesting story too. So, but I think we're going to be getting sort of deep into 3 of these stories. So I wanted to keep this brief this week since we'll be talking about them.
Well, we should talk about intermediate endpoints first.
Heck yeah.
That was, it's really interesting. So we're talking about solid tumors, specifically non-small cell lung cancer, and it's been used for multiple myeloma and AML. ALL, excuse me. And it's being used for hematologic malignancies like multiple including And it's being used for hematologic malignancies, specifically multiple myeloma and ALL. So, ta-da, what's different now?
Yeah, I mean, just to give some context, I mean, the really broad narrative here is that treatments are getting better, and there are, sort of other nuances, but basically people are either living longer or responding to a lot of different drugs now. This is happening in the myeloma space. I covered, there was an ODAC, I think earlier this year that focused on MRD, minimal residual disease in myeloma, or multiple myeloma. And it's basically, if we don't have these intermediate endpoints to get new drugs to patients, we'd have to wait. I think somebody mentioned in one of the conversations I had while I was reporting on this that the readout would be upwards of 17 years to get information about these new drugs that are being developed if we rely on PFS, overall survival, the sort of traditional clinical endpoints. So that's sort of the general push, is to make it so that effective drugs can get it to patients faster. Now, with that, of course, comes a lot of risks, and that's sort of the balance, the conversation. That's why this is something that's so fun to cover. There have been sort of cautionary tales that FDA definitely brings up about, drugs having really good early responses. So in MRD or even in PFS, I believe there's other early endpoints, and then having either a neutral or a detrimental effect on overall survival down the road. So that's sort of the balance that FDA is always trying to strike here, is not wanting to keep patients who, especially in myeloma, let's say hypothetically a patient goes through all of the available therapies and has no next step. That's sort of, I think, if I remember correctly about the myeloma one, and that was a story I wrote a while ago, so I might not be remembering all the details perfectly correctly, but in that case, that's where you want to be able to get a new therapy out to patients quickly if they work and if they're effective. But of course, you also want to be really careful. So that's sort of the broader narrative there. But this specific story was about the CT Monitor project. So friends, and this kind of goes back to MRD in multiple myeloma as well, is that to get to the point where FDA or ODAC and FDA feel comfortable approving drugs or granting accelerated approval for drugs in multiple myeloma using MRD as the primary endpoint. To get there, it was over a decade-long project is maybe a strong word, but effort. It started out quite disjointed. There definitely were inefficiencies because it wasn't sort of this unified plan to do this, right? It was this, it was driven largely by one person at Sylvester who felt confident that this was the way to go. And he sort of just pushed, and the science panned out, and it is an effective endpoint, early endpoint, not to be confused with surrogate endpoint. So basically friends saw this in MRD and said, we don't want this to be the case in ctDNA for solid cancers, because that's a waste of everyone's time. It's, and again, not to say that MRD, that was an amazing Herculean effort. Everybody at the ODAC, I think 3 different ODAC members called it Herculean, right? It was only laudable, but there were definitely spots where we could learn to do better. And that's what Friends is trying to do. And so the impetus for this story specifically is that they had a new readout of some of their data, one of their projects, that demonstrated that decreases in circulating tumor DNA after the initiation of treatment, and it was immunotherapy or chemotherapy, I believe, are associated with improved overall survival in patients with non-small cell lung cancer, like you said, Paul. And that was sort of, it's very preliminary. It's not like this is, proof that ctDNA works. We're not there yet, but basically it's another promising signal that ctDNA is like MRD, something that we can use for early or quicker outputs of clinical trials in certain cases. So yeah, it was a really fun story. It's fascinating, very statistics heavy, which is not how my brain works, but definitely something I want to keep an eye on too as ctDNA continues to develop as an endpoint.
Yeah, no, this is fascinating. I'm glad we're on the story, and that's why it was important to get that on the cover. It takes a while to get through it, though, and it's or to get to it because they're flooding the zone, as you may notice. They're actually not flooding it quite as much. Where shall we go next? Should we talk about what's the other story you'd like to discuss?
I think we should talk about your story, and then maybe we can pop back over to Grail briefly. But I think the next story should be about Kyle Walsh.
Very interesting. I know him because he wrote a piece for the Cancer Letter some years ago, like 3 years ago, about this series of stories in the Philadelphia Inquirer that basically said that AstroTurf from the baseball stadium, I believe the baseball team was called the Phillies. Is that correct?
I don't remember. I'd have to look it up, but keep going.
Please look it up because this is really bad because I have my knowledge of baseball is dwarfed by my knowledge of football, which I know absolutely nothing about.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I'm with you, unfortunately.
Yeah. So anyway, there was this discussion that AstroTurf causes glioblastoma and is associated rather with glioblastoma, or maybe causes. I don't know what Philadelphia Inquirer said, but it was clearly not something that Kyle wanted said, and Henry Friedman as well from Duke. So these two guys are at Duke. So he was just named director of the NIH Institute of Environmental Health Sciences. He got it's very interesting because this is a nomination that can be political and is usually, sometimes it's not, but in this case it clearly is. Kyle is a friend of J.D. Vance's from Yale. He was, they were both, guys from Ohio, at Yale, and they went to watch various sporting events together. And for a while, actually, J.D. Vance officiated at the wedding of Kyle's, and for a while he was renting a room in San Francisco from Kyle and his wife, who's a pediatric dermatologist in Durham in the Duke system, health system. So it's a very interesting question because this is a political appointment now. The fact that these two guys are friends, and we're talking best friends, pretty much. Is that a problem for anybody? I think the answer is no. It's actually kind of good that here is an NIH institute that has political juice behind it. If I were working for if I were working for NIH, I would say that's probably a good thing. Now, there's a really funny story with this. In March, it's a much greater detail in the story itself. J.D. Vance and his wife and Kyle and his wife went to the Kennedy Center and were squarely booed. So you can just, I have a link in the story where you can just watch them looking awkwardly, kind of like, what did I get myself into? I'm sure J.D. Vance knew, but Kyle probably understood it less acutely until that moment, and now he kind of does, or should. But he was booed. He understands that there's a Newtonian aspect of what's being done with the flooding of the zone and so forth, and he's in some ways a part of it, but it's also an opportunity for him to do something good and for good things to happen. So In a way, maybe it could be, I cautiously say, an inflection point in all of this. Having somebody there. And I mean, I knew him before any of this happened. I didn't know anything about J.D. Vance and him being besties.
Yeah. But now you do.
Now I do. And now that so does everybody else in science. And they stuck that story in there, all that detail about them being friends and about their kids being friends and their wives being friends, family. Like vacation together kind of friends. So is that bad that relationship exists? I don't know. Probably not. Actually, I think it's neutral to good, somewhere in there.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll find out, we'll see how things go as he continues.
I mean, look, I called a bunch of people whom I respect a lot, and they all said, "Yeah, this guy's good. He's not in the traditionally in the. I mean, he's an epidemiologist, an expert in glioblastomas. Has been involved in a bunch of clinical trials, but he's not really an environmental scientist in the traditional way. Who's to say that that's not the right kind of person to run National Institute of Environmental. Plus, he's a cancer guy. The possibilities for NCI and for researchers at NCI to work with the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences are enormous.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's nice. I think that's. I would view this right now as a cautiously good news.
Awesome. Very nice. I feel like we've had some a few weeks of that type of thing, so it's really nice. It's encouraging.
Just let's where I come from, we say Kanahora. May there not be an evil eye on this one. So yeah. I don't know if the cancer letter believes in the evil eye, but don't say anything good.
Yes. Well,
I just have, so that's a bad thing.
No, knock on wood. That's my version, is knocking on wood.
Can you say Kanahora?
I don't think I want to try.
Okay.
I took Latin in high school for a reason, so that I didn't have to speak out loud. Well, no, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I really have avoided speaking languages out loud since like 7th grade, so I'm not going to do it on YouTube.
Well, anyway. With dozens of people watching.
Dozens, yes. Okay, well, I will take us through just sort of the last bit that we're going to talk about today. I don't anticipate talking too much about this today because it's still developing. But last week, the Pathfinder 2 study results came out, and that is the most recent and most extensive study out of GRAIL of their multi-cancer detection test called Gallery. And they had a really strong media push about this. So I definitely wanted to just cover it because that's sort of something that we've covered in the past. And I think is, if you look at the other coverage, I don't think that, I think we're somewhat unique in the way that we cover MSEDs. So definitely wanted to sort of get our perspective out there. But this is something that I will be continuing to cover. So this is not at all complete. But the recent results from the Pathfinder 2 study showed that the addition of GRAIL's MCD test to standard screening led to a 7-fold increase in cancers detected within a year. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot to sort of talk about with that. I think it's really interesting that this is sort of the result that they're coming out with. And importantly, this trial, according to GRAIL, is a registrational trial. So this is what they're going to be taking to FDA to try to get the pre-market approval. So it's a type of approval that is for devices. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to be following that closely. Can't wait to hear what FDA has to say about it. But obviously, in the past, we've talked about how with all screening tests, but specifically with a multi-cancer screening test, it is quite tricky to actually measure or validate the clinical impact. Benefit or harm, depending on what the reality is. And it seems that the MCD field in general is hesitant, understandably hesitant to do what is necessary to prove that, which is do a trial with a mortality endpoint. And again, understandably hesitant because that kind of trial would take lots of time and lots of money. So that it makes sense. But, I think as speaking to experts and stuff, this has been an ongoing concern, is that without that mortality endpoint, it's really hard to know for sure if these tests are introducing benefit or harm to the public. This is something that we're going to be talking more about. I think the fact that they had a 7-fold increase in cancers detected, I don't know. Yeah. Okay. We don't know. I mean, and that's what's so tricky is that, public intuition and human intuition in this case is, of course, we want to catch more cancers. We want to catch more cancers earlier. But we just don't know if that's actually beneficial to people yet. That's at least my understanding of it as someone who's covered this. I definitely, like I said, plan on reporting more and diving into this in more detail. Going to get some, experts' opinion on this, the Pathfinder 2 results, and hear more about it. But just a day one story to keep up with the news.
Well, that one is a really interesting story because it's just a huge number of really profound questions, and NCI is trying to set up a study, the Vanguard, to address these questions. And there are 3 tests, and Gallery isn't one of them.
I think there's only 2, if I remember correctly.
Okay, there are 2. There are 2 tests, and Gallery isn't one of them. Let me repeat: Gallery isn't one of them. It's obviously they're trying to get FDA to say what it is that they're trying to do. It would kind of possibly make sense to focus on one disease, or perhaps one where there's no existing test, like pancreatic cancer or lung cancer, where there are tests, but this could be a good one. Who knows? It's a developing field, and the thing to do is not to prejudge any of it and to just report it, which we are doing. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And I'm somewhat involved in that as well. So, but it's interesting. As I edited that story, I looked for the word early. E, the capital E. It's not multi-cancer early detection test, but detection test, MCD, and that's the NCI language, preferred language, and we accept that because we don't really know whether these things are being found early or not early. So it's becomes commercial speech, and that's not going to happen here. Yeah. So we're So it's a language that's not always scientific.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely is, like you said, part of the sort of marketing angle. The way that they're selling it is that it's, and not even just selling it like literally, but, even the way the press release for the Pathfinder 2 results, it's very much focused on sort of this early detection. And we don't know for sure, like you're saying, that that's actually what they're doing. So, yeah,
we don't know what the FDA's thinking is on this.
Well, can I just,
please.
So this is something that I'm going to be paying attention to. So, I'll just say it. So basically, the last time I covered this was, I think it was last year, 2024. I had covered a class action lawsuit that was brought against Grail and its former parent company, Illumina. And I didn't get too much into that in the story because that case has been this is legal jargon is not for me, but the judge granted the motion to dismiss that complaint for failure to state a claim, but with leave to amend. So basically, to my understanding, again, not a lawyer, not understanding of law very, very generally, but it's some technicality with how the case was presented.
This week, we're going to have a story that will say whether the case has been refiled and it was dismissed without prejudice, which means it can be refiled. And has it been refiled? We'll find out. So it's an interesting question about, insider information traveling.
Well, but the reason I brought that up was because in that case, part of it was that FDA had directly told Grail, I don't know if it was part of Illumina at that point, but had told Grail that the studies that they had planned for registration, for approval, were, I think, quote, wholly insufficient. And so that is sort of my main question is I would love to know what FDA is thinking about this in a more substantial, verified way. But I think and I mean, even the ODAC meeting or it wasn't ODAC, actually, I'm sorry, it was a different advisory committee meeting, about, MCDs. I think that was also 2024 in like April, where FDA seemed to understand, some members of FDA seem to understand the importance of demonstrating clinical benefit rather than just, assay validity. So yeah, definitely a lot to talk about, a lot to report on, and there will be more stories coming.
There will be more, and I think NCI trial is an important part of that story. And it should be told, and we'll continue. And also, let's not forget that FDA is not static, especially right now. And like it or not, they may be changing their minds in different ways. So who knows? Who knows? I most certainly do not.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Long talk today, long conversation.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, I'm glad we had this little talk, and this is an excellent time to be a journalist.
Yes. For those of you who don't know, I'm glad we've had this little talk is Paul's new catchphrase every time he hangs up the phone with me. So it's very fun. I'm loving it. Glad we had the little talk, Paul. See you next week.
Bye-bye.